My name is Mary Reynolds. I have been a landscape designer for 25 years or so, and a few years ago I was sitting at my window looking down over my lawn and I saw a fox run past, and pretty soon after I saw two hares chasing the fox, and that was kind of strange in itself. So it was winter and it was daytime, and so I kept watching the brambly patch they had run into. And pretty soon I saw that they had a little visitor coming after them, a little hedgehog going in the same direction. And that was really strange because they certainly should have been hibernating at that point and would not be out in the day generally unless they're very hungry. And it definitely was on a mission. So I went outside and I went in the direction they were coming from because it reminded me of stories of Noah's Ark when I was a kid. And I went outside and realised that there was a noise at the end of my lane, and I live in the countryside in Ireland. I went down the end of my lane, and across the road there had been a beautiful brambly field, a thicket of a field that was impenetrable. There was brambles and blackthorn and hawthorn and a mix of all kinds of native plants, a native plant community, a really protected one. But somebody had got planning permission to build a house at the top of the field, and they had gone in with a digger and within moments practically torn the whole thing out to make a garden without any thought for the creatures that called it home. And I stood there in absolute horror because I had done this myself so many times, and suddenly I realised that we were not sharing the planet, that we were colonising every single patch of it, pushing out all the native creatures for our own benefit. And it wasn't even that we're pushing them out for anything practical in our gardens. It was simply because we felt entitled to treat our patches of this planet as blank canvases for our own creative expression, using non-native plants which were not part of the local food web, and so they were of no use to the creatures that were desperate for sanctuary and habitat. So I went back inside and I started researching the collapse of nature and realised that in Ireland, nature has already collapsed and we're left with tiny remnants of what we used to have in abundance. We have 0.01% of our ancient woodlands left. It's really incredible that we're expecting this web of life that we are completely and hopelessly dependent upon surviving, that we're expecting it to survive without giving it any space to survive. And so I realised that people are very hopeless because what can one person do in the face of the collapse of nature, which is what we're facing, you know. So I realised that, you know, if all of us that own a patch of this planet takes that piece of land and restores it back to native plant communities, creating edges and ecotones and as much habitat support as possible, that we can give nature a chance to breathe and create seeds of restoration for the time when inevitably we will have to cop on. We will have to wake up to the fact that the most important work left to us on this planet is to take care of all the creatures that we share it with. Scientists have estimated that there's 8.7 million species on this planet, and we've only catalogued and recognised 1.2 million of them so far. And we are acting like we are the only species here out of 8.7 million species. We're taking and taking and taking. But the wonderful thing that will help people understand that there is still hope is that nature can recover completely in as much as she can at this point. She can recover within 20 years. And so we cannot wait for politicians to do this work for us because they're clearly not going to do it. And it's up to each of us, any of us with any land under our care, any of us with a windowsill, a balcony, you know, any access to local parks. We have to become what I call the Ark, acts of restorative kindness to the earth.